last chance to look at me, Batman.
David, let me tell you something. You know so everyone, y'all know the twins from Breaking Bad.
Welcome to DDE. Hi, guys.
Welcome to DDE, guys.
Sometimes Breaking Bad, sometimes Better Call Saul.
With terrible bits all the time.
Yes.
All the time. But, okay, so everyone knows, all you guys know, speaking to all you guys know, whoever's watched Breaking Bad, the Salamanca twins. And you know that they are bald, Mexican, and scary as fuck.
Those are my 3 least favorite things.
Bro, I actually saw the real life equivalents of them.
No, you didn't.
At my gym. I'm being dead serious. They were both bald. They were twins. They looked exactly alike. And they were huge, bro. Like,
were they pumping iron in fucking suits? Though,
like, I mean, no, not suits, but like that would have been hilarious too.
Were they lifting weights that look way too tiny, and then they put them down, and they were like, "Muy fácil."
Did
they say that?
No, but you remember how he said it though? He's like, "Muy fácil."
Muy fácil. Literally, Hank would have died. So if he wasn't a cocky bitch. if he wasn't a cocky bitch, like that's all. Whatever. It's not even worth ranting about.
No spoilers for like already a 12-year-old show. But
I don't get for Breaking Bad spoilers. Who gives a fuck? At this point,
yeah. But bro, I saw these guys and like I like was just doing my workout, and then on the corner of my eye, right, I just like turned, and I see the two of them. They're like all together. They're like just sharing machines and stuff and everything, and I'm just like. Nothing about it was just like oh, like, you know, oh my god, like, did you play the twins in Breaking Bad? I was never gonna go up to them and ask them that, but I'm just saying,
I would have given you $10 if you did.
I mean, they look nice enough, you know. I'm like the guys in real life, like, you know.
If they looked mean, I would have given you 20.
They didn't even look mean. They're like, it was just like, you know, you don't just go up to a guy at the gym and just like, you know, ask him like, hey, dude, were you in Breaking Bad? Like, you know.
Dude, I'm just a piece of shit. Gluttony, who was one of the top players at Let's Make Big Moves where I was at this weekend. He's the French top player. Mm-hmm. Glenn Tendo, who made the artwork for our show, not the neon version, but the original version that you see on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and whatnot. He kept saying that he was going to walk up to Gluto and be like, yo, France lost the World Cup. And I told him, I will give you fucking $10 if you do that. And Glenn, you may have won the money match that you did against my Bowser this weekend. You're a pussy. You could have gotten way more money, bro. I would have given it to you. I would have done it. Can you lower your volume, by the way? I hear myself. No. I just lower the volume in your headset. I hear myself feeding back into it just a tad. Okay. Only a little. Like, so just so you can still hear me. You're good. Yeah. Oh, that was great. I didn't hear that at all.
Okay.
Sick nasty.
I think I'll just probably keep
I do it all the time too. Like, I forget to, like, I'll have it maxed to 100 and then like you'll bleed through my headphones and then I'm like, oh fuck you.
Oh, I'm sorry guys if like you did hear that. Like,
no. I lowered it down
to everyone else. I'm gonna apologize anyways. Whatever.
Anyway, Breaking Bad. What were you saying?
Yeah, it's a great show.
Oh yeah, the guys at the gym. Yeah, I just wanted. It was.
It wasn't even much of a story. It was just like, wow, like. I mean, you know, and people are like, "What? You never seen like 2 bald Mexicans before?" I'm like, "No." Well, I mean, I have, but like, I would have never imagined like seeing fucking straight up twins.
I would have been like, "Do you see bald Mexicans frequently?" Like, that's what I would have fucking.
I was like half expecting.
That's what I would have asked.
Like, I was like imagining, like, what if I did go up to them and like they're gonna tell me like, "Oh no, we're not twins, we're just friends." I'm like, "Get the fuck out of here!" No, you're not. Like, I look exactly alike. Holy shit!
Maybe that's how they met. Maybe they were just like at a bar and they looked at the other side.
I would not like that though.
No, other side across the room, Dennis. They were just like, they see the other one.
They're like, yo, what's up?
That's how I feel like the Team Fortress 2 mercenaries like react when they see the other heavy on the other team.
And they're just like, and they look to theirs like, wait, hold the fuck up.
So you look like me.
You look like me.
Sandwich.
Just punches him.
Oh yeah.
So David, real quick.
Yeah. We were talking about Breaking Bad, by the way, because I got Dennis fucking. I'll put that on screen right now. I bought it was
Prince, bro.
By Ballpen Prince. Actually, look them up online. By the way, Ballpen Prince, I believe was their name. That is exactly what they sound like. They write Ballpen Prince. So it was mostly video games and anime. As you can imagine, because I was
Breaking Bad.
I was at a Smash tournament this weekend. Let's Make Big Moves in the New Yorker Hotel, and Yeah, it was like the mental image that was created in my brain, seeing a picture of Pyra and Mithra from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 next to fucking Saul Goodman. That is burned into my memory. I burst out laughing as Koopa and Hazmat entered the room and entered the conversation. I was laughing so hard because people were looking at me like I was like a freak, and I was like, "What are you laughing at?" I just pointed to the fucking like kiosk. I'm like, "Dude, they have fucking Saul next to like Aegis," and then everybody else started cracking up. It was great, but I'll put it on screen right now. It was buy two get two free. So, they had Waltuh and fucking Saul on the front, and then I was gonna buy two and then get two for myself with the buy two get two free, right? And then he was just like, I don't have it on front here, but I have Jesse and Mike too, and I'm like, that's it. I'm buying all these for Dennis. I have to.
He messaged me this on Discord as I was driving, and I like, and and obviously like I don't text and drive, right? So
pussy. I'm kidding.
I wish you could see the look I have right now. I mean, I know like he's joking, but like if in real life you ever actually heard that, just give him one of what?
Wow, you don't text and drive, bro? You fucking pussy.
Even in seeing that in real life just gets me even more mad now.
Yeah, my ex-girlfriend before, I saw her texting and driving once. I literally told her like, fucking stop, and she was mature. She was like, you're right, and then she never did it again.
What's probably the thing is that like they know what they're doing is fucking stupid until someone actually tells them, hey, put your fucking phone away. That is fucking dangerous. What are you doing?
It was really Oprah. Go ahead.
Like, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, it's just, it is like one of those things where it's like, they know it's a bad habit, and they, like, essentially won't acknowledge it unless someone else tells them, like, hey, knock that shit off. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, because it like, the way I think about it is that, like, I think also everybody who sees that shit, they automatically think it's like, bro, like, you are literally endangering other people's lives with your vehicle, like, by doing that. And
I'll admit, I extensively change music while I drive, and it's not good because sometimes I use YouTube.
Come on,
it's not smart.
But do you do it at a red light? If you do that on a red light, then I don't care. Like,
at a red light, yeah, but sometimes when I'm driving like relatively slow, like on a local road, and that I gotta stop that shit. It's not.
Yeah, don't do it.
Sometimes I do stop myself and I'm like, David, it's not fucking worth it. And obviously I never do it when I'm driving, or if I'm on the highway or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe I do it subconsciously and I don't realize it. It's not smart. It's crazy the things you do, like driving, we do it so much, it's become such an unconscious habit that you could do other things, focus on the road and be like, huh! And then you like wake up from the thing that you're doing. It's like, was I basically just in a way like kind of daydreaming? I'm fucking driving. Like, what the fuck? Like, that was so dangerous. Like, what? Exactly. And, like, that's kind of, that kind of shouldn't be a thing that we do,
I did learn one thing, though, whenever I did drive, like, on the highway or wherever. Like, if I have two hands on the wheel, I'm a lot more focused. And, like, it kind of just, almost, like, zones you in. Not, like, makes you kind of, maybe it's like not the right word, but
when you have both hands dedicated to the one
thing, you're
thing,
way more focused. If
your cognizance is just more focused on the task at hand, since like literally your brain it's requiring more brain power because you're using both of your appendages. It's not like you're like side doing one thing, like I'll be looking up a story or whatever, like to talk about on the podcast while we're doing the podcast. A little bit of the same as like getting your shoes on in the morning to get ready to go to the gym. And like it hits a lot better, and like it makes you want to actually get out of bed because it's like, oh, I have both my shoes on. That's telling my brain it's time to start the day.
Time to go.
Not to be a piece of shit anymore. I'm not installing the Edge browser, fucking Norton. Like, why are you on my screen right now? You see? You see what I mean? I'm distracted. It's not good.
The computer's nothing but, like, a box of distractions, though, ain't it? Like, if you really break it down poetically, it's like, I know people who would use computers, obviously, like, for productivity and all that, but it's just like, bro, like, you cannot give me a computer and, like, not expect me to go on, like, YouTube or Spotify or whatever the fuck else. Like, even checking my email is, like, a distraction in and of itself. Like, I don't know. Like, every time, like, I've seen school have computers, right? I'm just kind of like, oh, what games can I play today? Like, on the fucking school computer. I never thought once, like, oh, yeah, let me look and Google up, like, WebMD. Why should I not, like, drink kerosene? What is the health benefits of not drinking kerosene?
It's 2023, my guy. Porn is free.
And porn is free.
You can't expect us to fucking... Not to... And I went to a bougie-ass high school, right? We rented MacBooks at our school for the students. And, websites used to be blocked profusely. Like, YouTube was blocked.
Because they had, like, a proxy filter.
And eventually, they unblocked YouTube. Big fucking mistake. Because as you can probably imagine, kids were mad distracted. And obviously all the game websites as well.
Yeah.
We would pass around flash drives with, like, Bubble Trouble... And
me too.
And with like
balloons
and balloons and stuff on it.
Yeah.
Newgrounds Rumble, all the Flash games.
Heli
like,
Attack
they were
was another
fucking
one.
cigarettes in a prison.
Yeah.
We would pass that shit around. It was like a currency to like the teenagers in that school.
It was like
students.
a prison.
We had the games.
It had like
and
prison currency. It was like a prison economy.
It was
really.
exactly yeah. And there was no greater like fear than getting
We
caught
even had-
like gaming in
We
class.
even had like contraband like snacks we couldn't bring to at least my middle school at one point because it was just getting so out of hand that like people were literally high chews, the little like little Japanese like chewy candies. So like those were getting pretty big like around when I was still like in middle school, like around maybe 2007 or 8, and people were literally buying like whole packs of them, right? And they were like treating them as if they were their own currencies. Like, all right, bro. Like he would slap down like 2 sticks of Taichu, and it's like, okay, 2 of those for your lunch.
That's fucking prison rules.
That's what I mean. And then they actually had to ban it straight up because like they just straight up said,
They always
like,
do.
Yeah, I know. Like any kid who's seen with these like is basically gonna get reprimanded and everything. And I was just kind of like, why is like?
At my middle school, that was tech decks.
I didn't
for the boys. We was tech decks. Remember those skateboards?
That's
what they were for us in middle school.
And everyone has like their own like kind of contraband, I guess. Like, and that's the thing, I'm calling it like here's some prison buzzwords, right? Contraband.
Paraphernalia.
Will be reprimanded if seen with it, right? And then like now I'm thinking too, it's like, why do we associate a lot of prison shit with school? And it's like I'm not trying to get into no like a conspiracy theory over here, but like
it's a place children have to be during the day, against their
will,
their will,
and like
in a twisted sort of way. That triggers the brain response to make do with what you have when you're stuck in a place like that.
Yeah,
and it's the feeble mind's like capitalistic nature, I suppose.
Yeah,
not trying to make some sort of like weird Gantt for totalitarianism in here, but to sort of like, what are the goods in this place? Like, if this is where our life has to be, how do we make a functioning society within these walls? You know what I mean?
And like the way that they would even think what people's perception of what a functioning society is also obviously differs across the board for everybody. And for people obviously in charge of a school and that whole school system, they think at least what constitutes a functioning society is rules, structure, and schedules. Because like that's all we had whenever we got into school. And you know how it always, like, for any teachers out there or anyone who's aspiring to be one, right? I'm not saying that like like school is a prison, okay? I'm not equating that. I'm just saying it has that vibe to it. And
unless you're in like fucking Patterson, where they just very recently installed metal detectors going inside the school for the kids there because a fight broke out a couple weeks ago and one of the kids had a gun. But it's also fucking Patterson.
Wasn't there in the news like a 6-year-old like shot a teacher sometime like last week? I think I heard that somewhere. I don't know if you guys did. Let us know.
I hit 6-year-old and the shoots teacher is the first thing that came up.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like,
what the actual sweet Mary fuck? How the fuck does that even fucking happen? Yeah, this was in Newport, Virginia.
You know what? I'm not even surprised considering it's Virginia.
What do you even do? What do you do to the kid?
Do you like press charges on the kid?
Yeah, like, what the fuck happens here? Does he doesn't go to big boy jail, obviously.
I don't know, man. There's some people that would try and like try out this kid as an adult.
What in the sweet fuck of it all? What was this even about? Oh, his teacher's alive. Says stable condition. That's good, at least. But still, what the...
Oh my god, man.
A 6-year-old first grader brought a loaded handgun to school and shot a teacher. I think that's all the information they really have. I don't think they have a motive yet.
I guess until like some news comes out.
Yo,
and now like that teacher is just like mentally scarred for life.
Well, obviously they got shot.
No, I know. But like I'm saying, like, you know, it's just nuts to even say that though, because it's like a fucking 6-year-old. And it's not even that much better to say that, oh, I expected a fucking middle school or high school to have a kid bring a fucking gun to school. But it's like now 6-year-olds, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Patterson is one thing. Patterson is literally one of the shittiest places in this entire fucking country, let alone the state.
Back in the day, it used to not be though. That's the thing.
When did that change?
It was like around like the 60s or 70s, I believe.
60s, huh? Okay.
Yeah, like maybe around the 80s, around there. Yeah.
Yeah, because like,
yeah,
because like, despite what y'all see on MTV, it's not fucking Jersey Day every fucking day here in this place. You know, Jersey is a very interesting state, very bougie ass areas. Frankly, the county that me and Dennis live in is actually one of the wealthiest ones in the country, technically.
Bergen.
And Bergen, yeah, and then a little further south in Jersey, where you have like Camden, where their firefighters literally wear fucking body shields now, because they get shot at while fucking fighting fires. And then there's Patterson, which is one of the drug capitals of the country. It's like literally a horrible, horrible city. And that was the school I was talking about where that shit happened, where like 2 kids were fighting and one of them brought a gun. Saw that shit on News 12. But this thing that happened in Virginia, what the sweet fuck? I mean, obviously that kid has to have like a terrible, terrible, terrible home life or something like that. You know?
I mean, that's the thing. I don't want to jump to conclusions because it's like, you know, it's because yes, that may be a possibility, but I could also just see like that, you know, kids really like if really think about it, like even when I was young, like I never like I don't know, this sounds so bad, but like it's like I liked guns in the sense that like whenever we made like paper ones like out of like, you know, whatever, like scrap paper and shit, like we would make like those kind of like, you know, paper guns. I always like think I was like, haha, yeah, like bang, like, you know, even when we played, you know, back then and way back in the day, like cops and robbers, it's like, bang, you dead, la robber, like thing, you're out.
This
and
says,
like,
go ahead.
Oh yeah, and like, you know, just kids like fascinations like with it, like, you know, there's like just something about a gun that like they just like are kind of drawn to it, I guess. And I think really
real kids are curious about stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not just
like,
alcohol. They're curious about guns too.
And for this, and in this case, like this kid probably like, I mean, whoever the fuck the father is, I guess, like they, you know, just probably like didn't do a good job of hiding that shit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, they probably left it. They probably
to.
left it out or something like that.
Or like
maybe his mother was doing like blow in the corner or some shit like that or whatever. I mean, but then again, the kid also goes to school, so this one's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it really.
But unfortunately,
like, just objectively, like
apparently nothing's gonna happen to the kid though. Reading this right now. It says a child under the age of 7 cannot be charged with a crime, no matter how serious the crime is. It says this immunity exists because the law presumes that they do not have the mental capacity to understand the consequence of their action. Thus, without mental capacity or intention to commit the act, only the action would not be enough to call it a crime.
Not to mention, it's like legally speaking, like what like even if let's say you can't really do anything, right, because of that law, like okay, he's under like 7 years old, so we can't basically do anything, right?
Can't even send him to a fucking correction home, like.
But that's the thing. It's like what like for a kid going to a correctional facility or even like a correctional home, it's like, you know, what is there like you trying to kind of like, because like I know a lot of people, you know, especially like the media does not like to portray like correctional facilities like that for young kids in a very positive manner, because usually it's like basically kid jail. And
sometimes it's just a funny manner. Like in the fucking Venture Brothers, like when they had like when the Monarch was in prison in season 2, and he's doing Beyond Scared Straight with the kids. It's like, you're here because you done fucked up too many times. It's the funniest shit I've ever seen.
Kids like see that clip.
Kid's like, I'll pull it up for you in a minute. Kid's like, oh, this is totally gay. And he's like, what? You think this is gay, huh? Is that what you said, you little fucking piece of shit? Oh, no. This isn't gay. But guess who is? King Gorilla over there. And the King Gorilla just gets like, they zoom in on King Gorilla and he's just like just making kissy face towards the kids. And I bet he can't wait to break a piece off of his dick in your... It's the funniest shit.
Oh my God.
Get up. I said get the fuck up. What is your name? Dean Vetcher. Your name is bitch! And as soon as I'm done filling every cylinder hole in your frame with my cock. Like, it's crazy. When I'm done, he just passes him over to the gorilla. It's like, there, I just sold you for a cigarette. And I don't smoke. Wait, holy shit. You're Dean fucking Venture. King, I gotta buy my bitch back. Here's your cigarette. It's like, fuck you, give me $1. That whole scene is perfection. I wish I could show you. I could show you that right now, actually. I could pull up screen share. But then they'd hear it and we'd get fucking copyright.
No, like, send it to me later.
I'll show it to you later, but that fucking scene is gold. But yeah, like, not even on, like, Beyond Scared Straight. I mean, it's 12 years old, I believe. 12 years old under the juvenile, under the fucking, the juvenile justice law. That's when the law, in the eyes of law, they can commit a crime. And between the ages of 7 and 12, they're also considered not to have the mental capacity to commit a crime, but above 7, if it's shown that the child had the maturity to understand the consequence of their actions, then they can be tried.
And that's after, like, that whole verdict comes after, like, they had a whole psychoanalysis of the kid. It's like asking them questions like, hey, why did you do this? What was your motive? And stuff like that. And if, like, there clearly seems to be almost no remorse from the fucking child, then it's like,
the kid's like, I shot that bitch.
Can you imagine, too, like, just being the fucking psychologist? It's like being called up. It's like, hey, yo, Nancy, you got an appointment tomorrow at the correctional facility in what the fuck was the place's name? Newport. Yeah, we gotta. You're not gonna believe this. A fucking 6-year-old. I don't know if you saw the news yesterday, but there was a 6-year-old that shot a teacher in the chest. We don't know if it was in cold blood or not, but we need you to come in and like fucking psychoanalyze this kid, right? And now imagine if you're Nancy, and just being like, you hear this, right? And you're like mouthing it into yourself. It's like, fuck, like what the actual fuck? And then they go there, like she goes there, and like she asks all the questions, right? And like you're just Nancy, like just kind of like eyeing this kid up, and like just seeing like if there's like any sort of like body language that you could try to decipher. And like she just leaves the room afterwards, and like they ask her like, hey, so what'd you find out? And it's just like, yo, I've had some scary ass people that I had to psychoanalyze before. I have. Trust me, I have. And I have never been so scared shitless being in the same room as that fucking child. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, there's been many times where, like, young kids, like, think we're murderers.
I mean, if the kid didn't have a gun, I wouldn't be that scared of him.
Even then,
I am like 6'5". If I'm sitting,
I know, but it's like you seeing them in the eyes though. Like the eyes say everything, and if you look at someone's eyes and they see like you see no remorse, like automatically,
this kid's like fucking like the Lucius like devil.
Yeah,
boy,
it's just like glossed
basically
over already. Yeah, it's just like, oh my. You're like kind of just sitting there, like you're trying to put up a front, like, showing that like, okay, like I'm just here to observe you and all that, right? But deep down inside, you're like, what the fuck happened to you?
Of these creepy ass videos that someone on YouTube made. It's like some sort of like weird Five Nights at Freddy's like lore thing. I didn't watch all of them because like a lot of them are really long and boring. But he has some that are a minute, and it's like an interview like with the animatronics, and what is like called an interview with Springtrap, which is like the murderer, the one who killed all the kids, like set off the lore of that game and whatnot. Okay. And the animation of that video, the voice acting, oh my god, it's incredible. Like, here, just pull it up and like look at it right now. The video's only a minute long. I'll just keep talking while you're watching it. It doesn't matter. It's called an interview with Springtrap. It was amazing animation too, honestly. Like real creepy shit. But yeah, so I would imagine it'd be something like that, where you have to sit yourself in a room and talk to this fucking thing, how's that even gonna go? You know what I mean? You see what I mean?
Psychologists, man, too. Like, it's just like, I mean, you know, people like obviously they get like all kinds of patients, right? It's like, oh, like I am a terrible person, like stuff they say, like it's like, oh, I'm a terrible person, I'm a shit father, I like my parents are disappointed in me, like you just like you've heard like if you're a psychologist that's been in the business for like or not in the business but like if you've been doing your practice for at least a good amount of years, you've practically heard everything at that point.
How
like from one end to the other, like you've heard everything.
How did this kid even get this thing?
And it's like, yeah, then you hear this kid and you're just kind of like, you know, what the fuck? Like, it's like you wish. I mean, maybe more news will come out where like the parents are actually gonna say something, but I mean, you know, could you think the teacher could maybe sue the parents? Is this like that was negligence on their part?
Dude, are you fucking joking? She absolutely can. She absolutely fucking can. There's a million questions. Like, how did you let him get this thing? Did you know he had this or not? That's a whole nother part of the investigation right there. Like, what is your home life like at home? What are your occupations and whatnot? They gotta analyze that whole fucking family. They gotta, like, send services there to, like, check that shit out. What is the situation is? Because, like, this kid was walking on the street one day, walking to school. He ran into a gangbanger who just gave it to him. To a six. I mean, they do some fucked up shit. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, is that what happened? And then you go to the house, and the parents are the most squeaky clean, like loving individuals you'll ever see in your life, who couldn't possibly mentally fuck up a child to such irreparable degree to the point where a 6-year-old wants to shoot a teacher over like a math problem or something like that. Like,
and then they'll be like, oh, but also one caveat. The father
what does
is
it say? It's not about math. I'm not even finishing that joke.
It's like one. It's like one little caveat. A father's a big NRA supporter. Like,
probably.
It's like I'm talking donated his life savings to this fucking org. It's kind of nuts. I would love it if like I know Joker was obviously
Scott
like
Cawthon did.
I know like the Joker was a straight up anarchist in the Dark Knight. I would love it if like you actually brought him in for like this type of shit. He's like just kind of goes and psychoanalyzes. He's just like, you know, if there was like a alternate universe where like the Joker actually like reformed himself and he's like he still has the face paint and everything, but it's just like instead of burning down the world, I'm gonna try to save it, one troubled soul at a time. And like he actually goes on to become like a fucking psychologist, and he's just like, you know, everyone comes in and like they kind of get a little scared because it's like, okay, he still has that fucking face paint and shit, so it's kind of like yeah, still kind of scared there, buddy. But you know, like okay, like I'm here for the hour, so like let's just see how this goes. And like, you know, he talks to all his colleagues. He's like, "Well, let me tell you something. You thought you seen crazy. Holy fuck, these people! Like the people I get every week. Like there is damaged goods, and holy fucking shit! Like."
There's more to the story. There absolutely is. We don't have it right now, but there's more to it, of course. Really? That is crazy shit, man. My God.
I think my whole series like would actually fly. Like I think that would do pretty well. Like having a psycho as an actual like psychoanalyst. That'd be very interesting.
There's some concepts of that. I mean, Dexter is about a serial killer who hunts other serial killers. Or like there's got to be you should write that, like a former psychopath who I guess
or like
still a psychopath,
or like a straight up
like,
supervillain who actually becomes like a psychologist. I mean, there was that whole little bit where I think it was in that Harley Quinn movie where like she at the end of the movie she actually goes back to like being a psychologist, but like she can't legally practice it because like, you know, she got her license suspended. But she does like a little show where like she kind of like has them on stage and like she asks them like all the psychologist questions and like just kind of getting to the root of their problem and all that. And like it's kind of like filmed in the same way like Oprah is, which like, you know, I always thought like, oh wow, like, you know, I mean, people can be reformed. You know, I do believe that, but like some people like obviously like in my opinion are just like if they're too far gone, like they're too far gone, and like there's just like no like helping them.
This kid is too young to even be committed to the custody of the Department of Juvenile Justice if he's found guilty. So if he's not even going to be submitted there,
6 too.
What the fuck are they gonna do with this kid? They can't just send him back to the fucking school. Right? I mean, if I was a 6-year-old in that fucking class with him, yeah, I wouldn't exactly want to make fucking paper mache art with the kid who shot my fucking teacher.
That's what I mean.
You know what I mean?
Where's the other
they can't
outcry?
Yeah.
Like, where's the other outcry from the other parents of the other children that are in that classroom? Like,
juvenile judge would have authority, though, to revoke a parent's custody and place a child under the purview of the Department of Social Services. Okay, so they can do that at least. They can literally take this kid away from his parents, which probably should happen, assuming that this has anything to do with the parents, which it probably does.
But the thing is, though, that this kid is gonna, like, let's say if he is reformed and all that, right? He's still gotta carry that for the rest of his life. I mean, granted, the teacher's not dead, so that's at least a good thing. Like, she is in, I think they said she's in stable condition right now.
Yeah, no, the teacher's trending in the right direction. That's what it said.
But it's like, you're still gonna carry that on your shoulder. Like, people are still gonna know you as that kid who shot his teacher in 2023.
And the psychoanalysts who are analyzing him say that this is ridiculously rare that something like this happens. He said Saturday that he's only aware of 3 other shootings ever that have been caused by 6-year-old students in the time period that he studied. This includes the fatal shooting of a fellow student in 2000 in Michigan and shootings that injured other students in 2011 in Texas and 2021 in Mississippi. So for the most part, it's bumblefuck states that it happens in, which is not surprising, where these guys would change their whole stance on abortion if, as soon as they fucking came out of the gut, like they had a fucking gun. If they gave like a handgun to like the fucking fetus, they'd probably be fine with abortion all of a sudden. Like, people who frankly do not deserve to have opinions on anything, if I'm being real. So, but Redmond said he only knows of another instance of a student younger than that causing gunfire to school, in which a 5-year-old student brought a gun to a Tennessee school in 2013 and accidentally discharged it. See, if it's that young, I mean, I can imagine the father probably just wasn't paying attention, probably took his dad's gun or some shit, put it in his bag because he thought it was cool, like, for show and tell or some shit. Wow.
It's like, would you pistol whip that kid and I got to take him back home?
I don't want to go like full filthy.
Take the clip out, but like this, like, what the fuck were you doing?
I don't want to go full filthy Frank here and say, like, listen, we need to beat our fucking kids again. But there is certain shit where, like, if I had a kid and I learned he did a certain thing, it would take power in me to not want to hit them, if I'm being honest. I'll just say it straight up. Like, if I found out my kid, like, sexually assaulted a girl or some shit, I'd fucking smack him across the mouth. Like, straight up. Like, I don't care. Like, especially if he had, like, no regret or some shit, to the point of, like, disowning.
Oh, like that one kid. Well, unlike it, but, like, the opposite happened where, like, that one guy, it was, like, this, like, soon-to-be college kid. Like, he apparently, I think it was found out that, he had raped a fellow, I think, female student. And then there was this whole trial about it and everything. And I think his father, like, publicly came out. I mean, as any parent would, I guess. But, like, his father basically defended him and said, like, no, he has a whole future ahead of him. I forgot what the fuck the kid's name was and everything. But this was, like, a while back. I don't remember when exactly. Like, hence, how my fucking memory goes. But at least I remembered, like, the buzz that was going around with it. And it brought to question that, like, even, obviously at that point, like, sexual assault related crimes, like, even, like, I think maybe, hopefully, like, it's slowly kind of becoming more emphasized, and it is, like, kind of being looked at seriously a bit more than, let's say, it was, like, 10 years ago. But it's, like, that was at least one of the biggest cases, I think, that came out, where it's just like, like, the kid, essentially what happened was that he got a slap on the wrist and he just walked free. And
I think I remember the story you're talking about. I don't remember the name of the guy either, though.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, he was soon to be, like, a football player or whatever. Like,
it's probably why it wasn't a big deal.
That's the thing, yeah. Like,
he's
like,
gonna be a football star, make our school real proud.
The crux of it was, like, the crux of it was that, like, he has a career ahead of him. He's gonna be, like, a football player and all that and everything.
Not anymore, fuckboy.
And I don't know what happened to him, though. That's the thing. Like, I'm not sure what happened to him, but like, it's Well, that's why, like, at least
Reminds me of what we were talking about last week with, like, like sports, like orgs or whatever, or colleges especially, because colleges are political as fuck. Do never let that shit
not
get
only
twisted.
political though, they're at the same time. Again, we even said it way back when, they are a business.
Yeah.
And like, and to be fair, and people like, if you're young and then going into college, right? Or if you guys are in college this year and you're freshies, just know that the college, if they ever ask you for your opinion on anything, they don't give a shit. They couldn't give less of a flying fuck about whatever your opinion is about that new statue that they used your tuition dollars to make. They couldn't give less of a damn about any of your opinions. And just know that just as you think a college is a place of learning, it is also at the same time a business.
Wait a minute.
And it is essentially one of the biggest Ponzi schemes, in my honest opinion, in this entire country.
Okay, I hate to cut you off. Apparently the website that I was reading that off of when it says what can happen to small children that commit horrible crimes was in fucking India. I'm sorry. Apparently that was like about India. What the fuck? It was like just, that was so weird. It was like written in English and everything, but apparently that was Indian law. I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna continue.
Yeah, no, please. I just wanted to clarifar that. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
it's fine.
Yeah, please go
fine.
on. I really,
And,
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's
sorry.
okay. But it's like, yeah, the what do you call it? What was I talking about? College. Your opinions don't matter, and that's like one hell of a fucking like kind of ladder. It's like, okay, yeah, bam, bam, and going back to this kid, obviously, like, I don't know. Again, I don't remember like the full story. I don't know what happened to him either. Like, I don't even know if he did went on to become like a football star or whatever. But at the same time, I think maybe he got Me Too'd. I don't know. Like, I don't know what happened to him. I don't even remember the kid's name. Like,
okay, well, Me Too should be the least of what happens to him if he fucking did it. I mean,
yeah, obviously the kid should have been jailed, but
like, oh, poor guy. Like, I remember when Kyle Rittenhouse was fucking crying his eyes out, like, my future's being taken away from me.
Did he? I mean,
yeah.
What ended up happening to him?
He got fucking.
Did he get jail time?
He got acquitted.
Oh, that's right. He
got completely acquitted, and the nation was like fucking outraged at that shit. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, like he fucking walked. There's a picture of him with Tobuscus. Do you remember Tobuscus? Like the YouTuber? Yeah. Tobuscus.
Did he?
Tobuscus is apparently like super right leaning, like to the point where like he literally like took pictures with Kyle Rittenhouse posing with water guns and like holding them like this. Yeah, look up that photo if you feel like laughing. And Tobuscus got canceled some many years ago because he was accused of raping a girl. And he fucking faked tears on a video, like crying about it and shit. But he didn't really go back to YouTube after that until one time where he tried and his videos got like no views. Which, good, he deserved it, honestly, if that shit was true.
You mentioned the sexual assault allegations, right?
Yeah, that's what happened to Tobuscus.
Yeah.
Which, I heard some people saying it was confirmed false. I don't know too much about that story, but, like, yeah, whatever. Point is, Tobuscus, from what I know, he didn't really bounce back after that.
I mean, well, as he shouldn't.
Yeah. And apparently I was dead wrong. Like, I'm reading this about children in adult prisons. I think, like, in some states, like, children, like, up to 8 years old can be charged as an adult.
Up to 8. In some states, right?
At least that's what this says. This says children were executed in the U.S. until 2005. And only in the last decade has the Supreme Court limited death in prison sentences for children. This says kids as young as 8 can still be charged as an adult, held in an adult jail, and sentenced to extreme justices in prison. Something about the Equal Justice Initiative? But I don't know if that's, like, state. I don't know if that's a state thing. Like, the ban allowed EJI to focus on some 3,000 people who were sentenced to life imprisonment without parole for offenses committed when they were 17 or younger. Children as young as 13 were among those condemned to die in prison. Okay. Incarcerating children with adults needlessly puts kids at great risk of sexual and physical violence, increased trauma, and suicide, obviously. Yeah. 4.5K, some 4,500 children are housed in adult jails and prisons on any given day in America. 9 times children housed in an adult jail or prison are up to 9 times more likely to commit suicide than those in juvenile facilities, blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to find, like, the age limit, because apparently the thing I was reading was in fucking India, like I mentioned, but if what I'm reading on the internet here says, like, 8 years old, but it's the internet, so who the fuck knows? This is wild. Dude, I feel like we're on a true crime podcast right now. How many more women are listening to this right now? My God, you're all probably you're probably losing it on your third iced coffee right now, wondering why you have anxiety, listening to a fucking like true crime podcast. Whew. Those are the number one most listened to podcasts. True crime.
True crime.
Yep. And their audience are mostly women.
I still prefer SVU over true crime. I'm sorry. That is only because my girlfriend is a gigantic SVU fan, and then she, yeah. First time I met her, the first time I came over her place, like she was like she just had the TV on and she was just watching SVU, and then I just from that point on until the present day, I just watched it with her, and there's some good fucking episodes. Like I will admit, like there's some good shit. That I've watched out of that whole show, and I've watched like 2 episodes of true crime, and I just could not get into it. I don't know what it was. I mean, I don't even like TV that much. Like flat out, I do not like TV, and somehow like it just caught my eye. I don't know, but yeah, you know what's so funny too? Like, why do women love murder documentaries, murder shows? Like, why is that?
I think it's because a lot of them are afraid of having crimes happen to them, which is why they like hearing about like horrible rape stories. I mean, not that they like hearing about horrible rape stories, but that they like listening about them on these podcasts as a sort of preventative measure. I'm serious. I'm completely serious. Like, true crime podcasts are humongous with women. Like, they're really the main people who listen to them.
I don't know, man. Like, a girl would probably watch a documentary about, like, a dude who, like, raped women in the park, and she'd still go out, like, running in the fucking park. Like, women are a weird type of fearless, in my opinion. Like, they'll read about it, and they're like, and they just keep, like, jogging in the park regardless. And it's just like, you know, if we heard that a dude was getting raped in the park, none of us would be like ever jogging in the park, like flat out.
Yeah, this says women are more likely to like them than men because to choose true crime media because of the educational aspect, the psychological aspect, and because the victims are often female. Data compiled by Spotify showed that female listeners of the true crime podcast genre grew 16% in 2019. I definitely think part of the reason women are drawn to true crime is that there is a level of relatability for women to the victims in these stories, and we often project ourselves onto the media we consume. That's why, yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think it's like a projection thing. I think they literally put themselves in their shoes because a lot of them are literally scared of having horrible shit like that happen to them. Like, I think they literally see it as, like, education. Like, to, like, think of, like, I'm gonna listen to this to make sure I don't get raped in the same way.
Education, huh? Fictional TV show. Education. Okay, well, you know, to each your own. Not that I'm saying you can't be. I'm just like, that's like, do you really need this show to tell you to be careful out there?
Maybe it's about the shock value, the intrigue.
But that's what I mean. Like, the fascination isn't like, I think the interest comes from not like, oh, you know, them, like, let's say, maybe, I'm not taking that away. Like, maybe they are self-inserting themselves, like, as that victim, and it's just like, oh my god, like, you know, like, the relatability. Like, she's a woman too. Like, obviously, like, that shit could happen to me. Obviously, yes, as, like, you know, any murder to anybody could happen to anybody. But, obviously, when it comes to, I think, I don't know the statistics of it, but, like, if I'd have to ballpark, I'd probably imagine murders more so involve women than men. Like, I can't put an actual number on it, but like I'm assuming that.
I think most murders are committed by dudes.
Towards women, I mean. Like, the women are the ones that get murdered. Like, on average.
I don't know. I remember in college, then back in Montclair,
they
showed us this movie about like these lesbians who have a true crime podcast together, and stuff. And then one of them starts dating this other girl who winds up being a murderer and shit like that. And then they have to kill her. And then the woman goes back to her roommate who felt neglected by the other girl. And then they go back to having a true crime podcast together. Yeah, I don't know. It was an indie film. It was really boring, if I'm being completely honest.
Why are you watching indie films, man?
It was the fucking class where all they showed us were
Should have
indie
walked
films.
out. I
You
would have
remember-
walked out.
I needed the fucking credit.
I would have walked out, man.
No, you fucking shut up. No, you wouldn't have.
No, I have walked out of classes more times than you think, man.
If you needed the credit,
Yeah, even then. And then there was one time where we watched like not like a terrible movie, I'd say, but it was just like this to me at least it was like this one I
want to call Jessica right now and fucking ask, like, why do women love this shit so
they
much?
eat it up, bro. They eat it up.
That'd be funny as hell if I just called her right now. like live on the show, just be like,
It's like, hey, BT Dubs, why does women love murders? Like, why do they love reading about this shit? Why?
yeah, I'm telling you.
It's so weird.
Even like the
man.
sweetest of women who like don't like violence. In
That's
media.
what I mean.
You know what I
It's
mean?
just like, but they're so into it. I'm like,
That's
why?
what I'm saying. I think those women who are into it but aren't like into violence and stuff like that, I'm telling you, I think they see it as educational.
Kind of like
think,
how I view history. It's like, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, literally most of history is like murder. Honestly, to a certain extent, like, wars and such, like, we learn
Yeah.
about massacres all the time. And yet somehow, at least for an example, the Rape of Nanking, right? Probably one of the most like egregious fucking like I don't even know what to call it, like a massacre that we've ever heard about, like a massacre / rape. And just like reading about it, right, should appall you to the point where like you can't even read about it no more. But yet there's tons of other massacres in history that people are fucking experts on. Like, they just know every detail of all these people that just straight up were raped, killed, whatever the fuck else, like, just defiled, like, thing. They know everything about them. And the interest is that, like, they just, if you ask them, like, why do you find this so interesting? They don't really have a good answer most of the time. It's just like, oh, it's just so interesting. And, like, from a person looking from outside in, just even hearing about that, you're just kind of like, I wouldn't say that the person is fucked up, but it's just kind of like, where is like what is wired in your brain? And like, again, you like interested in events such as that, like, and especially like even for the Rape of Nanking, like for educational purposes, obviously, yeah, you should know it, right? And if you are like an expert on the whole event, even though like a lot of the documentation I heard isn't really like, a lot of it is like obviously the rape we know of like did happen and everything, but the numbers and all, like, obviously we can't even put like a true number down because it's like the Japanese just like fucking burned everything as far as evidence goes. And like all we know is that like, yeah, the shit that happened was fucking atrocious, and it like you just like almost never had seen something like that in history, like and in the modern day, no less, like at least considering it was like 1940s, like around the 1940s. And but like, and now like at least in the modern day, the interest is that like we like, at least for murder mysteries, like they're more personal, because I mean we have like guys like Dahmer in the past, like thing that, and that whole Dahmer show was so weird too, because it's like, I remember my sister mentioned that like the guy who made that also made another documentary about something not like similar to like, not like Dahmer, I guess, per se, like at least to that scale, but it's like he profited essentially off of like all these families who were affected, whose loved ones did get like murdered and eaten by him. And then also other incidents too, where like, he went to these families, asked about the story, and then he just made money off of it. And that guy is a piece of shit, obviously, that goes without saying, because it's like, you are basically capitalizing on these families' trauma and at the same time, like, the deaths of their loved ones. And, like, I always found that, obviously, honestly pretty disgusting, considering that, we, like, the whole story of Dahmer, and at least, like, the series that came out about him, I never really watched it, and, like, I watched like a scene or two because my sister was watching it, and I saw some scenes, and sometimes like certain shows do this where
Ew.
I'm
like looking at stills from it. This is really
it's
disturbing.
eerie, ain't it?
Actually.
It's very eerie, yeah. And like sometimes shows do this where like they make you feel sympathized. like they make you sympathize with like the murderer, right? As to like why they're doing this and all of that, or even better yet, like I even saw people with Dahmer shirts, like wearing a shirt with his fucking mug on it. And it's like very similar to how I even saw people wear like Che Guevara shirts out there in public. And I'm just like, because like, well, for one, Che Guevara didn't eat people, as far as we know. I don't know. But he was, as far as it goes, was a revolutionary, yes. But at the same time, in his essence, he was a murderer. He just killed people, like, thinking that was his job. Like, that was just kind of like how it, how we know him as.
This is so crazy because I was listening to the official podcast today and they were talking about Kanye West when he went on Alex Jones and literally said, "I like Hitler." Yeah. And just basically shitting on Kanye the whole time, and obviously because
even Alex Jones like went wide-eyed when he heard all the shit that Kanye West. Like,
he tried everything, man. He's like, you just like the uniforms, right? He's like, "No, I like Hitler." Like, he tried so hard to cover his ass. Like, it was so bad. But the point is, this was true. Like, when all this actually happened, Germany, paid for the consequences of their crimes for as long as they did. They admitted to it. The Imperial Japanese Army did not do that.
And modern day Japan hasn't either.
Yeah, like, they literally just like, they shied an eye to it. They said war crimes. What war crimes?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? They literally just said that verbatim on the fucking official podcast today. It's crazy that we're talking about this now. That you brought this up.
Mm-hmm.
That is, ugh. But yeah, I've looked at a couple different websites. Literally everything says, like, because, like, women, it's like a shift to... One of the things says it has a shift to victimology, but a lot of them, like, read true crime podcasts where the victim... Or listen to true crime podcasts and stuff like that, where the victims are women, because they see it as an instruction to try to find out, like, what men in our lives are most likely to become violent later in life. And that's what makes the most sense to me. For women who don't like violent media, loving that shit as much as they do... What else could it be? It makes no fucking sense otherwise. That's like saying, like, somebody who, like, hates, like, being lightheaded or whatnot, doesn't enjoy the feeling of being high, yeah, but they love weed. You know what I mean? It's like, that doesn't make any sense. You see what I'm saying here? Like, that's just the vibe it gives off to me as to why they like it so much. I think they see it as, like, literally, like, instructions, basically. You know what I mean?
I know, but I think it still goes without saying, like, just to reemphasize the point, though, like, I have never heard, ever, a dude who was, like, tuning into this stuff and was, like, just stupidly interested on it. Like, just loved this shit.
Right.
I like, if I'm just gonna, like, I know this seems, like, almost, like, barbaric in a sense, but it's, like, if we're just gonna bring it to, like, gender lines, right? I have never heard in my life a dude that was interested in this shit. Just flat out. I don't know, like, and I think, because at least, at the end of the day, right? At least I'd like to think, like, most average people just like to enjoy stuff that are positive. At least that's what I'd like to believe, right? I mean, obviously for me as, like, a historian, like, I'm very into, like, military history. I'm very into, like, the history of, like, a lot of wars, like, and just learning about it and stuff, like, is interesting to me. And I know people would then argue, like, well, your whole interest has to do with war and, essentially murder on a mass scale. That's what war is. Yes, you are correct. I look at it through a very kind of a macro lens, like seeing, like, how many people in that village over there, how many people died, what was the civilian casualties, like, thing, and such. Like, there's all these numbers that go into, like, when it comes to, like, reading about history. But then it's just, for some reason, it almost seems for me a lot more detached, because it's like, yes, a lot of people died, sure, but we also view it in just the more empirical sense, where it's like, this many people died, and just stating it objectively as a fact, this many people died. And we don't, at least for historians, like, the whole point and the purpose of it is that, like, okay, we're just trying to display, like, just present the facts to you, right? Mm-hmm. Very, very often, like, we don't really go into, at least historians, we don't really go into, like, motives too much. I mean, obviously, yes, we do, and we do find that it is important, obviously, but it's never toward, like, there's never too many layers to it where, like, we're really thinking about, like, what was his childhood like, 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 why did let's say Hitler become the person that he is? And like there are like discussions with that and everything, but like, and he at least was like a murderer on a fucking just massive scale. It's like 6 million people like died like by him. And but then we go into like, let's say like a serial killer that was just running around his fucking town killing 30 people until someone caught him, right? Like even Jack the Ripper has like has such a big interest because it's like they apparently had never caught him. Like he is by far, I think, one of the most like, objectively speaking, one of the most successful serial killers out there in history, because it's like they just never caught the fucker. And like, he like murdered, I think, close to 50 plus, I think. I don't know the numbers too much, but like, Scotland Yard and all the police officers in London just had a whole manhunt for this dude, and they just could never find him. And everyone is always so interested with that. And like, we've had so many books, we've had so many, like, even music, we had movies about the fucker, like, just like, kind of like telling a story in a way, like things like who was Jack the Ripper and everything, even though really who he was is really not that important, right? But then now we go into like certain movies about like modern day murderers, like Dahmer, and like, like that kind of media, modern media, like thing about him and a bunch of others, like even fucking oh my god, I forgot his name.
I was just reading about it. There was a Netflix series about Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy.
Zac Efron played Ted Bundy, which was good casting because Ted Bundy was charming, and he used his charms with women to lure them to him, and that was how he killed them. He was dating these women, and then he lured them to kill him from that. And I remember, like, I'm reading this right now about Murderer's Girl Talk. It says, like, there's this one woman.
These pictures, holy shit.
Yeah, there was one woman who, like, in some class, like film class or psychology class, like, they were talking about fucking they showed Netflix's Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes. I think the real one, actually. And then the teacher actually questioned the logistics of this or the effects of it when one of her students expressed attraction to Ted Bundy during the class. And I'm like, he was a fucking serial killer. And that's the dangerous thing. It's like the media knows that women love this shit so much, so now they're trying to give them eye candy in it.
And they
which
push
sends
it.
Which sends the wrong fucking message, you stupid fucking pieces of shit, as to why women like these things so much in the first place, to learn how to not get murdered eventually later in their life because of a fear that the man in their life will turn violent. And instead, because women watch them, they just look at the ratings and they're like, women love these, we gotta put eye candy in this, and they make the murderers attractive now. Like, same with fucking Dexter. Like, Dexter is a fucking serial killer, and you're supposed to love the guy.
Or feel sympathetic in a way, at least. It's like, oh, like, he had a reason to doing it. But the thing was,
and he's supposed to be a good guy now because he changed. He becomes a serial killer who hunts and kills other serial killers. And the whole theme of the show is that, like, oh, he knows the minds of serial killers because he was one. And so he's the best one to catch them. Like a fucking Frank Abagnale situation, just without the money and instead with knives and shit. So it is wild. I think that's disgusting on the media to do that personally, because like it's just such a sick irony. It takes away the whole fucking reason as to why women were watching these things in the first place. You know what I mean?
These people should be, like, just hated.
Yeah.
Like, by everybody. Like, from women on. Like, everyone should fucking wish they could resurrect this dude just so they could kill him again. That's, like, the sort of hatred that if I had the power, I would manipulate the people to do that. Because none of these fuckers, in any way, like, should ever be celebrated in any sort of way, looks or whatever. Because like even when the Dahmer show came out, there were so many TikToks my sister was telling me that were saying like, yo, like, they were like, a lot of them basically revolving around like, Dahmer kind of like cute though. Like that's literally what she said. Like there was some of them on there, and like
those women got the devil inside them, bro.
At first, I could not believe it. Yeah. And, like, at first, I could not believe it. But it's just, like, the more I thought about it, it's, like, then I realized, wow, like, young girls, especially young girls. I mean, women in general, I guess, in general. Like, just the female, like females like that are into this shit. They just eat this shit up. They just, like, think. They like, somehow, like, it's... Because it's the reason why a lot of women, like, date murderers. They could look past the fact that, like, oh, like... Yeah, I know he does all this terrible shit, but damn, he actually kind of cute. Or he's kind of cute. Like it's fucking nuts that like they could look past that and
believe that they can be that one who can fucking change him.
And you know what's
You know
really
what I mean?
funny
Which
too?
is already toxic enough in and of itself.
If the opposite happened, right? If we found out, like, let's say, like, just a guy, right, found out his girlfriend was a straight up murderer, they would drop her ass immediately. Just like they hear that, like, oh, she like tells him, let's say, like, oh yeah, I killed Tiffany, like, thing behind like the fucking school gym, and I buried her body like thing 2 miles out. It's just like, and if you heard that as a dude, right? Realistically,
oh, that's so hot.
yeah, no guy ever would even think about fucking you.
There is something
His
strangely.
penis has shriveled up as soon as that left your mouth.
There is something strangely more feminine with the attractiveness to it, because I could see a gay guy sort of doing the same thing. You know what I mean? But I feel like it's important, not only in media, but in real life, to show that I think the only women who do what you say, in which they stay with murderers, it's because of the victim's relative vulnerability. Like, instead of portraying the perpetrators as smart by knowing how to exploit their vulnerabilities and glorifying them for it, being like, oh, he's so hot, I'd let Jeffrey Dahmer just stab me a little bit.
Yeah, and then eat me.
Like, yeah. Instead, like, this happens to women. This happens to really exploitable women, like ones who are broke and have nowhere else to really turn.
just vulnerable in general.
Yeah, ones who like did not have the best like home lives growing up, ones who were involved with gangs. I had a friend who was involved with gangs. I mean, she's not my friend anymore. There's a friend from the American Dream Mall, but like, she dated fucking gangbangers straight up, and she doesn't do that shit no more. But like, she did when she was younger because she had a fucked up childhood, and yeah, those are the kinds of women that get murdered. So I'm happy she's okay, and she's got a new boyfriend now, which is awesome. So like, I really hope she's doing okay. To be honest, but yeah, that shit is.
Call up Jessica later after this episode. Just call her up and just ask her, why do your other female friends like they just love this shit? Why?
I don't know, man.
There should be a movie on that too. I wish like someone would make like a fucking like world-changing movie about like, you know, hey, you know, girls, all like your interest in all this shit is kind of perverse and a little weird. So maybe you know, take a look in the mirror a little bit, like, you know, just a little bit.
We never even found out what Jack the Ripper looked like, right?
Like we like violent. Like we like violence in a way, I suppose. Like, but
it's like women have the same trigger in their brains to watching true crime that men do when they watch action movies. The violence triggers an emotional response in them. When you see like the action hero beat the shit out of a bunch of fucking low-life scumbag pieces of shit, like the scene in fucking Blood and Bone. Like the earlier scene in the prison when Kimbo Slice and like the whole gang comes up about him. He's like, yo, this motherfucker thinks he's special. And they all have like shivs and shit like that. And then he just kicks the shit out of all of them. It's so satisfying.
Yeah, it makes you feel
so
like,
satisfying. It makes you want to do that. It makes you want to be the action hero who beats the shit out of those people. But one, you don't know how to do that. You can't fucking, you're not a monkey man.
Yeah, but
you
it's
can't
always
just, like,
a case of self-insert though. Like you kind of like,
It's
like,
the same thing for women with these
the
true
victims,
crime podcasts, but for the victims. Very interesting psychology behind that, huh?
Didn't Dahmer only eat like dudes though?
I have no idea.
I think that was the case. Like that was Dahmer only.
Was he more partaker of the penis? Because didn't Jeffrey Dahmer do the same thing? Wasn't he like attractive or something and charming, and that's how he was able to lure people to him?
It was it was young men for the most part for him.
Jesus.
For Dahmer, yeah.
Well, see, now I feel a little uncomfortable hearing that, and now I kind of want to learn how to prevent that. Seriously, like I realized, oh shit, I'm a young man, ugh, and I shivered. I don't know if you saw that.
You know, there's this little thing that I read, right? And someone was basically saying, like, yes, Dahmer was absolutely a monster, without question. But even monsters can elicit sympathy. In the realm of fantasy, and fiction, just fiction, Darth Vader was an evil mass killer, but his intentions and his road to evil is more relatable than, let's say, for V for Vendetta's Adam Sutler, who was basically simply a fascistic sociopath. Here's the thing, again. We gotta disconnect the fantasy and the fucking, you know, actually what is real. And fantasy and even fiction is the only time that, like, we could even have that discussion, just flat out. Because it's like...
People watch fucked up porn where, like, they have, like, weird fetishes and shit, but then they like, I'd never do it in real life. It's about, like, a fantasy. It's about self-insert shit, you know?
And tons of characters that we see in TV shows or even in movies, right? A lot of them are, like, straight up, like, killers. Like some of them could sometimes even just be unapologetically like I just love killing people.
Even the action heroes.
Yeah.
If you
It's
ever
like-
watch the fucking John Wick movies, he kills a lot of people
Yeah.
in those fucking
He
movies.
kills plenty of people who I imagine they have families too.
Didn't he kill
And-
a bitch with a pencil?
He basically, John Wick in a weird way, orphaned a lot of children. Like, if you really.
Yeah, when you really think about it.
In another side of things, you know?
It's
like,
not about orphans.
it's about sending a message for killing my fucking dog.
Straight up. I mean, yeah, you watch those movies, it's like, yeah, he's getting revenge on the fuckers for killing his dog. It's like,
Yeah.
you want to see him murder all these fuckers.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And
but
he's
that's
also
what
a
I mean,
spy,
like-
so he's allowed to do it. He
But, like,
literally, there's the law.
But for certain characters who are, like, straight up villains, right? Like, even Hannibal Lecter. There's, like, he is obviously one of the most iconic characters in cinema. Flat out.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who he is. And he is like a favorite among like just, you know, like whoever like are fans of Silence of the Lambs, right? Tony Soprano, one of the biggest fucking monsters you will ever see on TV. Even though like there's tons of stuff about him that like, yeah, you will find relatable, you will sympathize with him, and even in a way, you will empathize with him. But at the end of the day, he is still a fucking mobster who kills people, robs, and just does shit for his own selfish interests. But at the same time, he is a father. And it's the reason why that, at least for me, a show like Sopranos is so fucking good, because of the fact that like you do have that discussion with yourself. And at the end of the day, it's not like how back then where mobsters were larger than life people. The modern day mob, at least the way they portrayed in The Sopranos, are all just ordinary guys who have waste management consultant jobs and just like have to navigate real world along with their mob world. And it's also even like, you know, going back to, let's say, an example that we brought up before, Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is like not exactly you know, the most like down to earth show, I'd say, like with, you know, with the way like the plot is sometimes. Like cartel, like it's just like a lot of it is like very much larger than life is what I'm saying. And a lot of the characters that we see in there, like even Mike, Gus, Jesse's one of the only few people that are honestly like the purest out of the entire like universe. And going back to at least like Mike and Gus, right? Gus, we don't really know much like thing about like what he did in the past, because like, you know, everyone brought up like that, oh, like I know what you did in Chile a lot. So it's like, and he was there during the Pinochet days, and if you don't know anything about Chile's history, he was essentially the dictator of the country until I believe he was ousted a while ago. And Gus does a lot of stuff that we do see him as a very complex guy. He is a drug lord at the end of the day, but at the same time, he likes to kind of put up this whole like squeaky clean frontman kind of disguise. Is the owner of several successful chicken restaurants like out there in New Mexico, and is a man of the community. That's like the fronts that he puts up. And as we learn more about him as the series goes on, like, you know, we do sympathize with him, right? But again, you cannot forget that at the end of the day, this dude has fucking killed people and has ordered people's deaths personally. Now we go to Mike, who basically is like, yeah, we know him as like the great, you know, Waltuh. He literally is just like, you know, the grandpa who's taking care of his daughter-in-law and his granddaughter. That's like his main motivation for doing all the shit that he does. He even says it unapologetically. Like, as long as, let's say, like my family is taken care of, doesn't matter what happens to me, as long as they're taken care of. And we've seen Mike kill plenty of people, like on screen, multiple times throughout the series, from Better Call Saul to Breaking Bad. We've seen them do it all the time. But at the same time, we've also always rooted for Mike. We've loved Mike. We wanted to see him live. And we hate Walter White even more because of it.
Yeah.
But again, like, going back to it, right? It's so weird because it's like when we hear about people in fantasy who do heinous shit, right? We almost have like this almost like, okay, you get a free pass in a way, because it's like, it's not even real. The whole thing is that like, yeah, it's not real. It didn't happen. So like, we could have that discussion. because it's like, again, it's fictional. It did not happen. But the moment we get into real life, right? Like the kid gloves are off immediately because of the fact that, like, at the end of the day, for these murders, right? Murder is still murder. A person's life was taken. And then Dahmer had the audacity to not only kill these fuckers, but then also eat them. Like, this dude should have been fucking crucified publicly. Honestly.
He would have if he had done it like some years earlier. If it was like from the 1900s or whatever.
Yeah, I think it was like
1800s.
around, I think it was like the 1990s, I think.
They would have hung him at the town square.
Or even like, there's even some people that like you just look at and I look at, and I'm like, whatever punishment you got was not even nearly enough.
Yeah.
Like, you should have been burned, like, publicly.
They elicit responses like to people who do horrible shit too, and you want to see horrible shit happen without the humanity getting too dark. But we're on an hour 12. I don't know if you
We are
noticed.
on an hour 12. Yeah, I was on my soapbox for a little bit, but
I might have to cut this one up a little bit so we don't get too mixed up. We don't do hour halves here anymore unless we have like a really awesome guest or something like that.
yeah.
And even then, we usually still.
I
keep
felt
it like
as
an
if
hour.
like, maybe it's something that just had to be said, because it's like, these people should not be fucking celebrated by anybody.
Yeah,
should not be
the super
celebrated by
miss the point
anybody.
characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Rick, I mean, it's the same thing for men, like for like toxic masculinity characters, like Rick from Rick and Morty or Cartman. Like we're supposed to laugh at Cartman, like not with him. You know what I mean? Like, we laugh at how terrible of a person he is, and that's what makes it funny. But not like, oh man, Cartman just says what I'm thinking. If a man said, women, you want your true crime podcast right now? If a man ever comes to you and says, Eric Cartman, I like him because he says what's on my mind.
He says what I'm feeling.
Fucking cut, run. Actually run. Because no man with a fucking brain will ever say shit like that in his life. Seriously. And they'd be like, he's just like me for real. Like, never like, literally, if you hear a man say that, he's just like me. Like, run. I'm not even kidding. Ladies, run. Like, those are the guys that they should be warning you about in your fucking true crime podcast. I'm not kidding.
Where does the whole, like, I could change a mentality come from?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a couple of reasons for that. They probably want, like, to be like, they probably want that pride to be like, I'm the one who changed him, or like to like that sense to be like, I made someone in the world better. You know what I mean? Like, I made a positive difference in the world. But they're too kind. They don't think of themselves and what could happen to me as part of that.
But I don't think it's due to just like straight up kindness though. It's not like, I truly believe it's not because like they like genuinely like feel that, oh he's just misunderstood and stuff like that. It's very, I don't know, like I'd like to think that whole line of thinking is just very perverse in its own way, because it's like, you still at the end of the day, let's say, know what the fuck this person is.
Yeah, if you want to change him, it means you don't like him for who he is.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But even if you did, that's like a little fucked up, ain't it?
Yeah, and then that's another reason. Maybe some of them, they do like them for who they are, and they're just toxic as fuck themselves. And, they don't really actually want to change them, but they think they do. Or they just have such an ego that they feel like they want to make a positive difference in the world, that they want to do that or whatever. Like, it's all sorts of complicated, but it's toxic as hell because none of those people think of themselves. You know what I mean? They don't think, you don't have to change somebody. You don't want somebody to change for you, because then they're living a life for you. The whole thing logistically doesn't make any sense. Again, hour 15. We're going.
We're out of here. We're out of here.
Yeah,
here's plugs. Here's plugs.
Boom.
Here, boom. You know all these, what all these fucking things are.
Yeah.
You know where to find
Apple
us.
Podcasts, Google Podcasts, blah blah blah. You all know that good shit. Follow us wherever.
we
YouTube.com/Nintoonist. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit. It was a good ass episode today. I like this one.
Yeah, I did too.
I get it. True crime podcast. It's content. Boom. Let's talk about this every week from now on. All right. Double D Experience is now a true crime podcast. Ladies, eat your hearts out.
Eat your hearts out, and also
Don't let nobody else do it for you. And fucking Double D Pod on Twitter, and the Double D Experience 21 on Instagram. We love you guys. Mwah. See you next week. Bye.
Fucking God, I'm gonna kill you.
But not really.